This is week 8 of the 52 weeks of picks. This week's theme, movie titles. All right, we're going to be doing a Matrix theme for our movie title. I have 2 Advil cold and sinus here, and I'm going to do the picture where Morpheus is holding the pill out and giving Neo the choice of what he wants to do. So we're going to start it off with my hand model. He's going to come in here and I'll give him the 2 pills. Here you go. That's my hand model. Excuse me. All right, on the camera here, we're set up at 1/60th of a second at f16, ISO 100, and the flash is going to be triggered as a slave off of the main pop-up flash here, and the flash setting is 1/16th power, or actually it's 1/8 power, and I got a little snoot on the front of it as well. Okay, so Stephen, you hold your hands out there, and I'm going to back you up just a little bit there, and I want to make sure I get both hands in the frame. Pull those fingers up a little bit. I want to be sure that the Advil symbol isn't showing on there either. And looks like we're going to have a party here. And I'm focusing on the pill. And I have to redirect here the light just so it doesn't spill onto my image. And there we go. I'm going to take one more and get his legs out of there. I don't want those in the image. And maybe I will zoom in just a little bit, make it a tighter crop. Now, can you move your hands in just a tiny bit? No, in together. Back it up a little. I want to see the tips of your fingers. There we go. And I have to change my focus point. Okay. And I think that maybe you're right. Maybe you could move your hands just a little closer together. And there we go. I want to get rid of that little thing you have there in the back. Maybe you can just... I'm just going to pull your shirt down a little bit there, all right? There we go. I'm going to hold that there. Hopefully it falls to black in the back there. All right, there we go. I think I like that. Maybe take one more shot. Move your wrists in a little closer together. And this looks like it might be the shot. Right hand, tilt your fingers up a little bit. There you go. Straighten your thumb. There you go, right there. April, can you move out of the back? Thank you. And there we go. Okay, and in Photoshop, we're going to change these 2 pills into a blue and red pill because all we had was the Advil orange ones. All right, I'll see you in Photoshop. Okay, now we made it to Adobe Bridge. You see here I have the images that were in the video. Some of these images here I didn't really care for because mainly, well, at least a little bit too high the hands were, and these hands were in a good placement, but they were too far apart. And you can also see the string down here in the back, which I didn't care for. So I brought in a little piece of foam core there just to block that off. And I didn't like the way it was positioned, and the hands are a little different on this one as well. So I elected to go with this image here. So I'm just going to double click that. I'm going to open it up in Camera Raw. And in Camera Raw, I just want to maybe darken this a little bit. There's not going to be too much to do in here. It's mainly preparing it for what I want to do in Photoshop. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is just lower the exposure just a little bit. And just to darken it up. If you've ever seen the movie Matrix, you know, the scene where he actually presents Neo the two pills are pretty dark. The whole scene. It's got this cool, like, greenish color cast to it. Okay. I'm going to lower the highlights here. Just going to bring those down. Just to give it that dark feel. Maybe that's a little too much. Go around 30 or so. That looks good. And I'm going to drive it really dark. I'm just going to take the shadows all the way down to -100. And I'm going to bring the blacks down a bit too. I don't want to go too dark because then the hands just start looking weird. Just a little bit. Maybe around there. That looks pretty good. Let me go down to 14. And I think that's enough. It shouldn't be too much. We got a good amount of contrast going on here. So I'm going to open this object up in Photoshop. If you watch any of the other videos, you know I'm a fan of smart objects. Okay, so here in Photoshop, we're going to start off with these pills here. And we're going to make the selection because in the movie he presents him with a red pill and a blue pill. So in the right hand here, it's going to be a red pill. So I'm going to zoom in a bit, just holding down the Z and moving in and out. And now holding the space bar down, which allows you to use the move tool. I actually have it bound to one of the buttons on my pen, my stylus pen. I'm going to go over here to the marquee tool and hold down on that. I'm going to choose the elliptical marquee. I'm just going to start to draw a little bit of a pill shape right here. And I'm going to get an estimate, rough estimate about the size of it. And then I'm going to right click and go to transform selection. You can also reach transform selection here by going up to the select menu and choosing transform selection, which brings up this little bounding box. Now if you hover over the corner here, you see the arrows turn to a curved little arrow with 2 arrow points on each side. You can just click and rotate that and then move it over to where you want it to be. And my selection was pretty close. I'm just going to extend the size of it, and I just put it in right on the corner. Gives you a different type of arrow, so you can just stretch the corner out. I'm not constraining any of the proportions or anything. I'm just going to move this up a little bit here, and you can see it kind of gets a little weird. You can zoom in a little bit more. Oop. Control Z to undo that. I'm going to hit the Control Plus to zoom in a little bit here. And I'm going to right click in the middle of this here and go to Warp, which is going to allow me to get a little bit closer with my selection. Just going to grab this little control point here and move it down. And same thing on here. Just move them inward a bit. Maybe move this one out just a tad. I'm looking at this little edge here where it's overlapping a bit. And then move these in. That might be a little too much. Move this up a little bit this way. And I'm just trying to get right along the edge of the pill here. And right here I'm not too concerned because we're going to be going over into this area to change this color anyway, so that can just, you don't have to be so accurate on this edge over here. And now I'm just going to hit enter on the keypad, and there's our selection. So now I'm going to hold down the Alt key and come over to the create adjustment layer icon, and I'm going to go up to a hue saturation adjustment layer. And holding the Alt key brings this menu up. It prompts this menu. And I'm just going to click on Use Previous Layer to create clipping mask. So it's only going to allow it to affect this layer. Even though I only have one layer on here, I'm just going to make sure it affects this layer alone, in case I decide to put any other layers underneath. And I'm going to name this one Red Pill. And hit OK. And to change the color here, I'm just going to rotate the hue. And it doesn't need to go too far over. And that's pretty red there. You can tell the red if you look over here on the info box. Doesn't look like it's changed much, but it's showing that there's no other colors in there but red. You push it over a little bit more if you want. And the closer you get to 255, the redder it is. You can see it's starting to change back, so let's move this back just a bit. I think that looks pretty good in there. That looks pretty red to me. And I'm going to lower the saturation just a little bit. I don't want it to be glowing red. I want it to blend into the image and make it look believable. Okay. And of course that's the purpose of the whole thing, is to make it look believable. Alright, and now I'm going to change the blending mode on this to color. And it's just affecting the color in here, not the luminance levels of the image, or of our selection here. Now I'm going to select the brush tool, clicking B, and of course it's not working because on Windows this becomes sticky. You can see the blue highlight there. Just do the escape key and it'll get rid of that, and now I can hit B and go to my brush tool. I'm going to make sure my opacity is up at 100, and I'm going to hit F5, which brings up the brush box. So you can do custom brushes and things of that nature. Since I'm using a stylus pen, I have set the pen printer on my transfer, so this is for the opacity jitter, meaning it depends on how hard I press is how much pigment's going to come off. So with white as the foreground color selected, I'm just going to paint over this area here and try and make sure that this is red. Even though it doesn't look like it's changed much. It looks like I got a little magenta on the edge here too. I'm just going to go a little further on that. And hold down the Alt key and click. You can see exactly what it is that I've been doing here. This is just shows the mask itself if you Alt click on it. And then you hit the same thing again. Alt click on the mask again, and it'll show the mask again. So, and there we go. That makes it a red pill. It doesn't look much different than what this was, but the orange pill is very close to it to begin with. So now we're going to do the same thing over on this pill. I'm going to hold down Z and zoom in a bit on this. Move it over. I'm going to select the marquee tool again by hitting M. And just draw another selection. Try and get it as close as possible. And right click, free transform, or transform selection, I'm sorry. Rotate it, move it over the top here. And make it a little larger. Just trying to get it as close as possible. Right click again, warp. And move these points in. Just going to go a little bit quicker here. I don't see a point in reiterating this whole piece here. And I'm going to extend that out. Bring that in a little bit. Maybe zoom in a little bit more. Oops. And once again, this is going to get painted in, so we don't have to be so accurate with that. But this outer edge needs to be a little more precise. The same thing with this edge up here. Okay, and I'm going to hit enter on the keypad, back out, and once again, hold the Alt key, use saturation. I'm going to call this one Blue Pill. And now I'm just going to set the blending mode here to color right off the bat. And there we go. And now we're going to rotate this one to a bluish hue. Right around there looks alright. And we're going to lower the saturation on this one too. I think that looks alright. Maybe a little bit more. Let's use the arrow key. Okay, I think that looks good. And then once again, I'm going to hit B to get the brush tool. And the same settings are still on there, so I'm just going to paint this in a bit here. And the reason why I'm using a pressure sensitive tablet, I don't want to make it all completely blue. I want it to be a shadow, so it kind of fades into the image, into the palm. And if you just painted straight over it with a regular brush and didn't kind of blend it in, it'll look a little fake. I'm trying to make this as believable as possible, that it's an actual blue pill. And the harder I press, as you can see even here, it starts to show up a little bit more. And there's a bit of blue here as well that needs to be blue. The reflection from the or the light diffracting through the pill itself. So I'm just going to paint a little bit in here too. I'm going very lightly with that just to be sure that it's a very subtle blue that's on there. Once again, I don't want it to overpower the image. Maybe a little bit right in here too. And I think what I'm going to do on here, on this pill, because it looks a little bit harsh, I'm just going to blur it a little bit. So I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And zoom in a bit just so I can see what's going on. That's too much. Just want a slight little blur on there. I think that looks good right there. Okay, now what I want to do is add that over green looking color cast on here. I don't need this anymore, so we can get rid of that. I'm going to go up to a new adjustment layer, and I'm going to hit color lookup. And they have some presets in here under 3D LUT, which is lookup table. That's what that stands for. And I'm going to go down to this tension green, which puts that green cast that you see pretty much the entire movie had, but it was more prominent in the darker scenes. And I'm going to change the blending mode on this to darken, which it was a very subtle change, but multiply just sends it way too dark. So I thought the darken worked the best for this. I'm just going to lower the opacity because it thinks too much green. Be around there, looks good. Okay, the other thing I wanted to do was just give it a little more contrast in here. So I'm just going to go to a brightness contrast adjustment layer. And I'm just going to increase the contrast on it. That looks good there. Maybe a little less. That's a little too much. 21. That looks pretty good. And then to finish this off is just to darken up the sleeves a little bit and a little over here. So I'm just going to create a curves adjustment layer. And I'm going to switch the blending mode to multiply. And with the mask selected, I'm going to hit Control I to invert the mask. And now with a brush, hit B, which I already have selected here. I'm just going to increase the size of the brush. And I'm just going to paint over the sleeves a bit here. Just to darken them up a little bit. And then definitely down here. I'm going to try and send this to really dark, so not affecting the image too much. I just don't want the eye drawn to this, that's all. Do a little bit here. And there you have it. I'm going to go into full screen here. Hit F a couple of times. And there you go. This is the Matrix. Which pill are you going to take? Alright guys, I'll see you next week. Bye.